Welcome back to Author Talk with SJC.
Today we are speaking with Alexander Verbeek-van Toren, and he is going to be talking about his new book, Corruption.
Hi, good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I am good. How are you? Thanks for getting up so early for me.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so you've been up for a minute. It's lunchtime, right?
It's noon, but we have Fridays off, so I got out of bed just about 2 hours ago.
Oh my goodness. I thought it would be fun to use AI to try to create a skyscraper on an island in the middle of lava.
Mhm. I mean, it's not at all what I have in mind, but it is a skyscraper on an island in the middle of lava. So there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know. I was like, that's still not right. That's still not right. But I was like, you can't make it perfect, So,
true.
but
And the lava looks a little like just water that was dyed red.
yeah, it never let me actually do a lake of lava. It kept doing a lake with lava. I was like, no, that's not right. But yeah, no time to perfect. That's why we have real artists.
Yeah. Thank goodness. And the cover designed is perfect and very much lava.
Yes, that's awesome. And yeah, so just tell me about yourself, Alexander.
Okay, well, I am Alexander Verbeek-van Toren. I am from the Netherlands. I currently live in Spijkenisse, which is close to Rotterdam, if you are aware of any Dutch geography. I am 33 years old and live there with my husband and our dog. And my day job is a child psychologist. And when I'm done helping kids, I go home and I write. And thanks to that, I have written many, many manuscripts and also a few short stories. And Corruption is the first one that got lucky, and hopefully many more will follow. And Corruption is a young adult book that takes place in a world where everybody is born with 5 crystals embedded in their body. And with most people, one of those crystals lights up, and that determines their role in society. Um, However, I said most people. My main character, Revan, has 2 crystals lit up, and that makes him other crystalled, or an else, as the slur goes, and makes him hated and loathed if anyone at his school would ever find out. Thankfully, nobody at his school knows. And when he goes home, there he's accepted and welcome and lovely until one day he finds himself at school and he cannot go home anymore because he always goes home through a magic portal, and that magic portal has suddenly stopped working. Revan has to try and navigate his different identity surrounded by people who would probably hate him if they had the chance. And just when you think it couldn't get any worse, he finds out a clue on who got the magic to stop, and then other crystals start dying left and right.
Mm. Yes, I have started the book and I am at, I think I'm 47%, 48% as
Yeah.
of today. And so I look forward to talking about that in our second half. But so is this something you've been working on for a long time, or is it something that came up quickly? How did your writing process kind of go with it?
Um, the whole story, it is actually very closely related to another novel of mine that hasn't found a publisher yet. It might in future. I also have a novel still in the works about a fantasy novel that takes place on a tidally locked world.
Oh
And
no,
my
what? Say that again?
on a tidally locked world, so the sun shines at the same side all the time,
Hmm,
which
interesting.
is
Okay.
also very interesting. And I wrote the first version of that in 2014. Um, However, that first version, it was my first foray into fantasy, so you can imagine how well that went. I recognized pretty quickly I have a boring protagonist. I need to rewrite the whole thing. So I tried again during November 2015, but that meant I had a short period of time in which I couldn't work on anything. So I quickly jotted up a story about skyscrapers and with the main character called Revan and some magic apocalypse that had taken place 5 years ago. And it wasn't all that. It was just something for me to write. And I did try to edit it, but it became pretty clear this story is a mess. I'm never going to come back to it. That was a lie. I'm never going to come back to it. So whatever. And so I go back to working on Serande, and that's the tidally locked world, by the way. And somehow in the back of my mind, this story is still, I don't want to say festers, that sounds very negative, but this story is still growing. And there's still something like, okay, but skyscrapers and magic, apocalypse, I could do something with that. And I don't remember where exactly, but somewhere along the line, well, in 2018, I came out as bisexual, which kind of helped the process. Corruption is a very queer novel, as you can probably tell because you've read already, you're already halfway through. And I think after my coming out, I was like, what if I use the weirdness that I had already established in this early version of Corruption to talk about our world and to talk about not belonging? And that is where the crystals came from.
Okay.
And then I decided to, well, okay, another problem with that story originally as it was the magic apocalypse was 5 years ago. Let's shift that timeline. That magic apocalypse, it's going to happen right now. Because that is far more interesting and I can do much, much more with that. And also, I was really interested in having a society being built on something and then that something being taken away. The whole society is based on magic because, well, as the background of Jessica can tell you, the whole world is also bathed in lava with just a few islands where skyscrapers are on top. And the only way to get from skyscraper to skyscraper is by using magic. And then the magic stops. I was very interested in that. What would that do? What would that be? And I had this idea in 2019. And now you can imagine this is pretty funny. In 2020, our own society was built on something that was then taken away. So I wrote it in November with thinking about COVID as well. And I originally wrote it in Dutch, wrote the whole thing. And then Bill Tracy of Space Wizard Science Fantasy got interested in the novel. And so, well, when I heard he was interested, I immediately translated the whole thing to English as fast as I could. And well, January 13th, the book will be in your hands.
Okay, awesome. So, do you have any characters that, well, that might be spoiler version, so let's wait on that.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
but yeah, so excuse me, I drank water down the wrong pipe this morning, so I sound kind of funny.
Sounds. I
But
hope it's not foreshadowing for when I sip my tea.
bless you, bless you.
Yeah,
Drink slowly.
I will try. Yeah.
What does your mug say? That looked interesting.
Oh, that is completely unrelated to the novel. Can you read it? Because it's not.
Oh, thanks for all the belly rubs and for picking up my poop. Love your favorite.
It is
That's
clear what this
adorable.
refers to. It's not my husband. Yeah,
I'm hoping it's maybe a dog.
bingo, bingo.
Maybe,
That
yeah.
it's a dog. Yeah.
What kind of dog do you have?
We have a cross between a Cairn Terrier and a Yorkshire Terrier. Tiny, long-haired. My husband is allergic, so she's hypoallergic, thankfully.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And I always grew up with Labradors, so I also have fondness for them. But my husband can't pet them because hives, so he's not doing
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, we over here, my partner and I have two cats. And I grew up with dogs mostly. And then as an adult, I've just kind of transitioned over to cats. I had three cats and a dog at one point, and then now we have the two cats. So,
that. I grew up with cats and dogs, but my husband is allergic to cats and also hates them, so I've learned to accept that lot in life.
that's funny. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you found a solution. I love the hypoallergenic dog idea.
Yeah,
You still
yeah,
have the little you still have some poop to scoop, but or pick up. That's different with cats and dogs.
yeah.
Picking it up, not scooping.
You still have some poop to pick up, but it's worth it for all the love that the dog gives you, right?
Oh, for sure. For sure. All right, so let's talk let's talk book a little more. So I think it's interesting that you started with a different novel completely and then just said, okay, let's just write something real quick, and that's
Yeah,
the one that stuck.
yeah, that's the one that stuck, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
And
no, go ahead.
I think what the reason why I went with that one is because the world building there, it was very limited as well. And
Mm,
that gave me something to expand on. The whole crystal idea that's so vital to this novel was actually not in the original draft, of course. And the original book also has, well, the original book, the very first draft that I have also had the big twist where my main character turned out to have a crush on his best friend,
oh,
who was at the time Gave, which is, as you all know, as you know, also the best friend in this novel. And now they have an entirely different relationship. So it was very unfinished, the world building, but because I had such an early draft, I could still expand on that.
gotcha. Yeah, I like that you kind of looked at it and said, why did I put the apocalypse 5 years ago? Why not make that the story? And then you've got something to drive with.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and also it is very funny that I wrote it in 2015, sincerely believing I was straight at the time. And I wrote about a main character falling in love with his male best friend. Like all the signs were there. I was just too stupid to see him.
Oh my goodness, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think if I've ever written anything around that topic, and I write a lot of poetry, kind of by
Mhm.
accident. I, I don't really read poetry very often, but when I write it, that's just how it comes out. Or when I write, that's how it comes out. So, um, but I'm curious to see if I did write something around being gay or something like that. Like, what would it turn out to be? And I know that wasn't your intention, which is even better. Like it just that's
Yeah.
how it came out. No pun intended.
I'm still laughing, even if it wasn't intended, because it was funny. Yeah. That's sometimes how writing works. It just helps you reveal something you didn't know about yourself. And honestly, coming out is the best
Mm.
thing I've ever done to my writing because all of my writing is now usually centered about something being queer, and all the better for it, I feel.
Yes, that's awesome. I like when stories first started coming out that had gay characters. That's what it was about. And now I feel like there's so many more stories that like Revon just he's the main character, period. And then oh, also this thing. It's like it's not the main point and the main reason for the story and things like that. It's just part of it. And just like it is in life, it's just part of our lives. It's not something that we're trying to make a story about, you know.
It is just something that he does. Yeah, I don't wake up in the morning thinking I'm bisexual. It's
Right.
not a core part of my identity. I mean, it is a core part of my identity, but I don't think about it all the time. I'm also a child psychologist. I am also a writer. I am also a husband. I'm not just one note bisexual. And, you know, realizing that makes for a lot of better stories.
Hmm. Tell me about the child psychology. That is amazing. I don't know that I've ever met a child psychologist.
Well, now you have.
Yes.
um what is there to tell? It's my day job. There are day Wait, before I go on, let me add a caveat. I am not going to talk about any individual clients here, not even anonymized, because I don't want any clients seeing this and thinking, oh, you're farming my life for content. But yeah, I work 32 hours a week, off on Fridays, thankfully. Thank you, union. um, and I see a lot of different children, from 6 to 18, with at max 25 if they really want to stick around. And I specialize mostly in gifted people, in autistic people, as well as gender dysphoria. From my own queerness, of course, gender dysphoria. It's not something I've experienced, but it's still something that is adjacent to where I am. So it's something I feel very confident in tackling.
Right. Wow. Thank you for your work. That's That is very honorable, and I'm very grateful to have you in the world
You
helping
are
people that are dealing with those things.
you are welcome. It's something that pays the bills, but it's also just something I really like to do, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I
I
get
have
to
a
help.
cousin. Say
Hmm?
again?
I really like to help people. And I really like that I get paid for it. You have a cousin, you said?
I have a cousin who is transgender, and he came out at like 16, something like that, and really struggled, with just different family members and things like that. That it definitely opened up a lot of conversation that a lot of our family had not had. So um, I still, try to reach out to him, every so often and check in and everything. And we've never really been close because we're just different generations and, different, living in different states and everything. But it's been interesting to see, when my coming out and then his and, things like that, just to see how that affected my family. We live in the South of the US, and a lot of the South struggles with that kind of difference. And so we have to play with it and to try to live normal lives while also respecting other people's struggles, but yeah, I'm very grateful to know, there are counselors and psychologists who are paying attention to that gender dysphoria because it is very real and very damaging.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm glad there are options for your cousin as well over where you are, because I know that the American South is unfortunately not the most accepting place.
Yeah, it's a struggle sometimes. I
Yeah.
actually moved up to Connecticut about a year ago and a year and a half ago, and uh, I just wanted to see a different culture and understand, what it's like to be in a place that doesn't have that really as the root, and see what it's like to be in somewhere that's a little more diverse and in their thinking. So, um, but I actually found a hairstylist who focuses on people who are transitioning. And so
Oh,
he
that's
has,
lovely.
yeah, he has paintings up in his studio. He has a big warehouse thing it's an interesting place. It's called Angry Hair. And he said he only gets cool clients with a name like that anyway. But
Of
he has
course.
huge paintings by a transgender. I don't know if he was transgender or if he was like a drag queen. I can't remember, but he had paintings of himself um in like tights and in different like different styles and everything, obviously going to perform and things like that. And uh so that was just really interesting to just find that, and just be around somebody who has that focus.
I can imagine.
So with the story. I keep trying to like ask questions that I can't ask yet because of spoilers.
Difficult. Yeah.
But one thing you mentioned was Bill Tracy or William C. Tracy, as we know him in the author world. Uh, Tell me how you got connected with him. I talked with Allie Mead recently, who's another author on the project, and yeah, it's just interesting to see how everybody came together. So I'm curious about that.
That's also a story that starts in 2014, 2015. So
Wow,
you may have heard of the podcast Writing Excuses. It's a
haven't.
Okay, it's a podcast that used to be hosted by Brennan Sanderson, Mary Robinette Kowal, Dan Wells, and Howard Taylor. Brennan Sanderson has left, and I believe Dan Wells has left now as well. There are a new hosts. Anyways, I found out about this podcast when I was still a student. I was like, I want to improve my writing, so I listened to every episode religiously. And then
Hmm.
it turned out they did a retreat, writing retreat in the States, Tennessee, um, Chattanooga, at the house of Mary Robinette Kowal's parents. And so I went, and it was lovely, and I learned a lot. And a year later, they moved to a cruise ship. And I was like, sure, let's go. Who was also like, sure, let's go? William C. Tracy, who was there together with his wife. I think at the time we both still identified as straight. Um, And well, we met again in 2017 when the same retreat came to Europe, because for once I was not the one with the jet lag, which was lovely. And yeah, so we talked to each other a couple times. I still have a lot of American friends from both of those retreats. Had a blast every time, and well, thanks to that, I have good connections in the American publishing world, and thanks to that also, Heather Tracy, Bill's wife, sent me a message in 2019 saying, "Hey, Bill and I are going on a cruise through New Zealand. Do you want to come?" And at the time, 2020 was planned in 2020 Worldcom was planned in New Zealand, so we would go to Worldcom and then a cruise through New Zealand attached to that. Thankfully, absolutely no global disasters happened in 2020, so the journey completely happened. No, unfortunately, we had to cancel everything. But we tried again. I got married in 2023 to who is now thankfully still my husband. And around that time, well, COVID lockdown was slowly over, it was ending. And so Heather sent me a message: "Do you still want to go to New Zealand? We can still go on a cruise. You, your husband, Bill, and I." And well, we quickly decided it would be our actual honeymoon, because doing a big honeymoon after a big wedding is not a good idea. You will be exhausted and you won't enjoy the honeymoon. So we went, and basically what happened was that one of the days between New Zealand and Australia, we started in New Zealand, we ended in Australia. We were all sitting in a hot tub at the cruise ship. And I remember Bill asking, and Bill already had his publishing house going at the time. And I remember him asking me if I had anything to work on. And well, there's that big tidally locked world, of course, that I talked about earlier. That was the first thing that came to mind. That's my big published novel. So I'm gonna see if I can sell that to him. And so I told him about my big published novel, and Bill isn't really interested. He is professionally curious, but I can tell I'm not grabbing him, which is fine. It's in Dutch. I don't want to translate the whole thing. It's too much of a hassle. And either my husband or Bill asked, "Do you have any other projects you're currently working on?" And so a couple titles shoot through my head, because I'm always working on stuff. And then I eventually land on corruption. And well, I've already sort of told the rest. Bill immediately latches onto that idea. And he says, "Well, okay, you know what? You can translate the first chapters of both novels and send while we're here on the boat, and I'll look them over as soon as I get them." Well, I am normally very careful and cautious and taking my time on translation work, but this was the biggest rush job I've ever done. I translated both chapters as quickly as I could the next day, had my laptop on me, worked as fast as I could, had them finished, I think, about 2 hours. And Bill said, "You can send me a synopsis for both of those when you're home." I got home, I recovered, sent the synopsis, and Bill was like, "You can translate all of Corruption, and we'll probably slot you in for somewhere in 2026. And that is how that happened.
That is awesome. I had no idea that Bill actually was like the catalyst for the book. Not just, yeah, not just the publisher in the end, but also helped, kind of get you going,
I
or
mean, I was still,
get you more focused on it, not get you going, I guess I'd say.
yeah, get me more focused on it. Like, most of the building blocks were already there. And the novel was already written, because I'd written that in 2020. It was, but I translated to English for him. Also had some test readers going over it, and then, well, after that it was just a normal editor writer process. So meaning, I don't like this bit, can you expand on this? And through there we got to an even better version of the novel that's somehow felt more like me, which is what a good editor does. It makes your novel more like your novel.
Oh, that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alexander. It's been really good to talk to you about how corruption came into being. And so I'm looking forward to our next video. I need everybody to stay tuned for the next time our spoiler video comes out, which will be after the book is released, January 13th, 2026.
Yeah.
And we will see you then.
See you then.